The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Admiral Park Tahoe stood at the bridge window and watched the massive station grow larger. Villor Prime, the neutral ground where all species came to talk. He had never seen it before, but he had heard stories. The Galaxy Council had built it 3,000 years ago, long before humans learned to travel between stars. "Admiral, we will arrive in 20 minutes, said his officer. Park nodded but did not speak. His mind was heavy with memories. 3 years of war. 3 years of death. He had seen human colonies burn. He had held dying soldiers in his arms. He had written letters to mothers telling them their children would never come home. And now, he was supposed to sit at a table and talk peace with the creatures who started it all. The Korath Empire had attacked without warning. They came to the human colony of New Busan on a quiet morning. By evening, 2 million people were dead. The Korath did not want the planet for resources. They did not want it for strategy. They simply wanted to show the galaxy that humans were weak, that humans could be killed without consequence. They were wrong. But the price of proving them wrong had been terrible. Ambassador Li Yuna joined him at the window. She was a small woman with gray in her hair and steel in her eyes. She had spent 30 years building peace between nations on Earth. Now she would try to build peace between species in the stars. "You do not look happy, Admiral," she said. "I am not here to be happy. I am here to protect you." The Council promised safety. This is neutral ground. The Council watched the Korath kill our people for 3 years. They did nothing. Their promises mean nothing to me. Li Yuna did not argue. She knew he was right. But she also knew that humanity needed this chance. The war was bleeding them dry. Every month brought more death, more destruction. If peace was possible, she had to try. The station was even larger up close. It was shaped like a great ring, spinning slowly in the void. Ships from 100 species docked along its edge. Park saw Korath warships among them and felt his hands tighten into fists. They were met at the docking port by council guards. Tall creatures with blue skin and 4 arms. Valani, the oldest of the elder races. They looked at the humans with cold curiosity, like scientists studying insects. "Welcome to Villor Prime," one of them said. "The council awaits." The walk to the council chamber was long. They passed through corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some looked at the humans with pity. Others looked with contempt. A few looked with something like fear. Word had spread through the galaxy. The young species from the small blue planet had not died quietly. The council chamber was a vast circular room. At its center stood a single table. Around the edges sat representatives from dozens of species. But the true power rested with 3 figures on a raised platform. The elder races. Valani, Morith, and Telkani. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Elder Orvith of the Valani spoke first. His voice was deep and smooth like water over ancient stones. "Humanity, you have come far. The Council recognizes your struggle. We have brought you here to end your suffering." The Yuna bowed her head slightly. "We thank the Council for this opportunity. Humanity seeks only justice and lasting peace." "Of course," Orvith said. "Peace is what we all desire." He waved one of his 4 hands, and a holographic document appeared in the air. "The terms of peace." Li Yuna read them, and her face went pale. Humanity would surrender for colony worlds to the Korath. Humanity would reduce its military by 60%. Humanity would pay reparations to the Korath Empire for the cost of the war. The Korath would face no punishment for their attacks. No acknowledgement of the dead. No justice for the murdered. The chamber was silent. Everyone watched the human ambassador. "This is not peace," Li Yuna said slowly. "This is punishment. We did not start this war. Our people were murdered. Our worlds were burned. And you ask us to pay for it?" Orvith's expression did not change. Young species often struggle to understand the larger picture. The Korath are powerful. They are old. They have been part of the galactic order for centuries. Humanity is new. Humanity must learn to accept reasonable compromises for the sake of stability. Reasonable? Admiral Park stepped forward. His voice was hard. 2 million dead on New Busan. Another million on Incheon Station. Children burned alive. Hospitals bombed. You call asking us to forget this reasonable? A Morith elder raised a hand. We understand your pain, but pain does not change reality. The Council has watched 12 species go extinct because they refuse to accept hard truths. We do not wish humanity to become the 13th. The threat hung in the air like poison. Li Yuna looked at the elders for a long moment. She looked at the Korath ambassador, who sat smiling in his corner. She looked at the dozens of species who watched in silence, too afraid to speak. Then she looked at Admiral Park. He gave her a small nod. She turned back to the Council. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. Humanity came here seeking justice. We came with open hands and honest hearts. We were willing to forgive much. We were willing to sacrifice for peace. But we will not sacrifice our dignity. We will not reward those who murdered our children. We will not bow to those who threaten our extinction. She straightened her back and lifted her chin. You have made your position clear. Now, hear ours. Humanity rejects these terms. Humanity withdraws from these talks. And humanity will remember who stood with us in our hour of need. She paused and looked directly at Orvith. No one. The human delegation turned and walked toward the door. Behind them, the chamber erupted in chaos. Species shouted. Council guards moved. Orvith raised his voice, demanding they return. But the humans did not stop. They walked out of the chamber, out of the station, and into the darkness of space. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make its own. 6 months passed. The galaxy waited for humanity to break. Elder Orvith sat in his private chamber and read the reports. Human space had gone completely dark. Trade routes closed. Communication channels silent. Every ship that approached their borders was turned away politely, but firmly. The humans had built a wall of silence around themselves. They will come back, he told the other council members. Young species always do. They are emotional. They make dramatic gestures. But when hunger comes, when fear comes, they return to the table. We simply need to wait. But the weeks became months, and the humans did not return. The Korath grew angry. They had expected an easy victory. They had expected the council to force humanity into submission. Instead, they faced a silent enemy who refused to play by galactic rules. Make them negotiate, the Korath ambassador demanded. You promised us this war would end on our terms. We are trying, Orvith replied. But we cannot force a species to talk if they refuse to answer. Deep inside human space, something was happening. Something the galaxy could not see. Captain Kong Suman sat in the command chair of her ship. The Silent Wind. It was a small vessel, built for speed and stealth. No weapons, no armor. Just engines and sensors and a crew of 30 who knew how to be ghosts. They were 3 weeks into Korath territory. 3 weeks of hiding in asteroid fields, riding the shadows of gas giants, moving only when the enemy looked away. 3 weeks of watching and recording. Captain, I have their fleet positions, said her sensor officer. A young man named Imjun-Ki-Su-Min moved to his station. The screen showed a map of Korath space. Red dots marked every warship, every station, every supply depot. Months of work condensed into a single image. Good work, she said quietly. Send it home. Encrypted channel. Then we moved to the next sector. Junkie hesitated. Captain, we have been out here a long time. The crew is tired. The Korath patrols are getting closer. Maybe we should return. Sumin shook her head. We return when we have everything. Admiral Park needs complete information. Half a map is worse than no map at all. She looked at the young officer and softened her voice. I know it is hard. I know you are scared. We all are. But this is how we win. Not with anger. Not with revenge. With patience With knowledge, when the time comes, we will know exactly where to strike. Junkie nodded and turned back to his console. The message flew across the stars toward Earth. On Earth, General Chodai Sung stood in a factory the size of a city. Around him, machines worked day and night. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. The air smelled of oil and fire. "How many this month?" he asked his aide. 47 new cruisers, 112 fighter squadrons. 2 new carriers will be ready next week. Daesung nodded. Before the war, humanity had built ships slowly, carefully, peacefully. They had believed that the galaxy was a place of reason and law. The Korath taught them the truth. The galaxy was a place of power, and power came from strength. Project Stormbreak. That was what they called it. The complete transformation of humanity's military. New ships, new weapons, new tactics. Everything designed for one purpose, not defense. Attack. "The Council thinks we are hiding," Daesung said. "They think we are afraid. Let them think so. When we are ready, they will learn what fear really means." His aide looked uncertain. "Sir, some people are asking questions. They want to know why we are building so much. They want to know the plan. The plan is simple. We will never beg again. We will never ask for justice from those who have none to give. We will take what is ours, and we will make sure no one ever threatens our people again." Across human space, the message spread quietly. In schools, children learned about the Korath attacks. In training camps, soldiers prepared for battles that had not yet come. In laboratories, scientists worked on weapons that would change everything. And in a small office in Seoul, Ambassador Lee Yuna sat alone. She had received 17 messages from the Galaxy Council in the past month. Each one asked humanity to return to negotiations. Each one promised better terms. She had answered none of them. On her desk was a photograph, her daughter and grandchildren, smiling in the sunshine of a colony world. That world had been attacked 8 months ago. Her daughter survived. Her grandchildren did not. The Council called it unfortunate. The Korath called it necessary. Liuna called it murder. She picked up a tablet and began to write. Not a message to the Council. Not a plea for peace. Speech. The speech she would give when this was over. When justice was done. "You asked why we fight," she wrote. "You asked why we would not accept your peace. Here's your answer. Peace without justice is just another word for slavery. And humanity will never be slaves." Months passed. The galaxy grew nervous. The Korath demanded action. The Council sent more messages. Other species began to whisper. "What are the humans doing?" They asked, "Why are they so quiet? Should we be worried?" In his chamber, Elder Orvith finally allowed himself to feel doubt. He had ruled the galaxy for 200 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He knew how the game was played, but humans did not play by the rules. They did not beg. They did not bargain. They did not break. They simply waited, and in the darkness of space, Admiral Perk Teho received the final report from Captain Kong. Every Korath ship, every Korath base, every weakness, every blind spot. He read it once. Then again. Then he smiled for the first time in 3 years. "Send the order," he said. "All fleets, prepare for launch." The storm was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. 1 year after humanity walked out of peace talks, the galaxy changed forever. It began in 12 places at once. 12 jump points. 12 fleets. 12 hammer blows that fell at exactly the same moment. Admiral Park Taho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Soul. Around him, officers worked in calm silence. Screens showed the positions of every ship in his fleet. Hundreds of vessels moving as one. "Admiral, all fleets report ready. Jump drives are charged." Park looked at the tactical display one last time. Captain Kong's intelligence was perfect. The Korath had no idea what was coming. Their patrols were in the wrong places. Their defenses were facing the wrong directions. They expected humanity to hide, to run, to beg. They were wrong. All fleets, Park said. Execute Stormbreak. Space tore open in 12 places. Human ships poured through like water breaking through a dam. They struck Korath outposts, supply stations, and patrol fleets before anyone could send a warning. In the first hour, the Korath lost 200 ships. On Korath Prime. The Emperor sat in his throne room when the first reports arrived. He did not believe them. It's impossible, he said. The humans are weak. They cannot attack us. They do not have the strength. Then the second report came. In the third and the fourth, his advisors ran in circles. His generals screamed into communicators. His admirals demanded reinforcements that did not exist. The humans were everywhere, striking from directions the Korath had not protected, hitting targets the Korath had not thought to defend. How do they know where we are weak? The Emperor demanded. How do they know our positions? No one could answer. They did not know about Captain Kong and her ghost ship. They did not know about the months of silent watching. They only knew that the humans had appeared from nowhere. They were destroying everything. The main battle came at Korath Prime itself. The largest fleet the humans had ever assembled dropped out of jump space in perfect formation. Admiral Park led them personally. Against him stood the pride of the Korath Empire. 3,000 warships, the largest navy in the galaxy. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds. Ships that had made species tremble for 300 years. The battle lasted 9 hours. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hannah flew at the head of her fighter wing. 200 small ships, fast and deadly. Their mission was simple. Kill the Korath flagship. Stay in formation, she said to her pilots. Watch each other. Trust your training. We are going to end this war today. The Korath flagship was enormous. A mountain of metal and weapons. It had led the attack on New Busan. Its captain had laughed as the colony burned. Hannah had seen the recordings. She had not forgotten. Her fighters dove through enemy fire like rain through wind. Ships exploded around her. Friends died. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Not until justice was done. Target the engine section, she ordered. All fighters, concentrate fire. 200 streams of light hit the flagship at once. The engines exploded. Then the reactors. Then the ship itself, breaking apart in a flower of fire. Hannah watched it die and felt nothing. No joy, no relief. Only the cold knowledge that there was more work to do. Across the battle, the Korath Navy crumbled. Human tactics were unlike anything they had faced. The humans did not fight in lines, trading shots until someone retreated. They moved constantly. They attacked from multiple directions. They sacrificed damaged ships to protect healthy ones. They fought as if every life mattered, because to them, every life did matter. After 9 hours, the Korath commander sent a message on all frequencies. We surrender. Cease fire. We request immediate negotiation. Admiral Park read the message. He thought about New Busan. He thought about the children who died screaming. He thought about the council, sitting in their comfortable stations, telling humanity to accept slavery. Then he replied, You came to our worlds with fire. You killed our children. You laughed when we asked for justice. Now you ask us to stop? He paused, and his voice grew harder. We have not yet begun. The attack continued. Not because Park wanted revenge, but because the Korath would only understand complete defeat. They had to know, in their bones, they could never threaten humanity again. Within 48 hours, the Korath Empire lost half its fleet. Within a week, human soldiers landed on Korath Prime itself. Within a month, the Emperor was in chains. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Council received reports every hour, each one more impossible than the last. The Korath, the terror of known space, had been broken by a species they had dismissed as children. Elder Orvith sat in his chamber and read the final report. The Korath Empire had fallen. Human ships controlled their space. Human soldiers walked their streets. Human flags flew over their capital. How? He whispered. How did they do this? His aide shook his head. We do not know. They should not have had the ships. They should not have had the weapons. They should not have had the intelligence. But they had all of it. Orvith closed his eyes. He had ruled the galaxy for 200 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen this. A young species, humiliated and dismissed. Rising up to shatter an ancient empire in weeks, he thought about the peace talks. He thought about the terms he had offered. He thought about Lee Yuna's face when she walked out. We made a mistake, he said softly. We made a terrible mistake. His aide said nothing. There was nothing to say. Across the galaxy, species that had suffered under the Korath began to celebrate. Slaves broke their chains. Prisoners walked free. Worlds that had lived in fear for generations saw the fires of their oppressors go dark. And in the center of it all, humanity stood alone. They had not wanted this war. They had not wanted to become conquerors. They had only wanted to be left in peace. But peace had been denied, so they had chosen another path. Admiral Park looked out at the conquered world below his ship. His face was tired. His heart was heavy, but his voice was steady when he spoke. Send a message to Earth. Tell them it is done. The Korath will never hurt us again. The message flew across the stars, and the galaxy began to understand what they had awakened. 3 months after the fall of the Korath Empire, Ambassador Lee Yuna returned to Velor Prime. The last time she walked these corridors, she had been a beggar, a representative of a young species asking for scraps of justice from those who had none to give. She had left in shame, the laughter of the Korath ambassador following her out. Now she walked as something else entirely. The Galaxy Council had sent 17 messages, asking humanity to talk. 17 messages promising better terms. 17 messages that slowly changed from demands to requests to please. Liuna had answered none of them, until now. The council chamber was silent when she entered. Gone were the crowds of watching species. Gone were the curious diplomats and laughing enemies. Only the 3 elder races remained on their platform, and a handful of others scattered around the edges. They looked smaller than she remembered. Ambassador Lee, Elder Orvith said. His voice was the same, deep and smooth, but something had changed. The arrogance was still there, but it was cracked now, broken by fear. We are grateful you have come. The Council wishes to discuss the future of galactic relations. Liuna stood in the center of the room. She did not bow. She did not speak soft words of diplomacy. I am not here to discuss, she said. I am here to inform. A Morith elder leaned forward. Surely we can find common ground. The Council recognizes that mistakes were made. We are prepared to offer humanity a seat among us. Full membership. Equal voice in galactic affairs. You offer us a seat at the table that told us to die quietly. Liuna's voice was cold. You offer us equality with those who watched our children burn? You think this is generosity? It is insult. Orvith raised his hands. What does humanity want? Tell us, and we will consider it. Humanity wants nothing from you. Humanity wanted justice. You denied us. So we took it ourselves. Now, we will build something new. Something better. With or without you. She paused and looked at each of the elders in turn. But first you will hear the truth, and the galaxy will hear it with you. She gestured, and the chamber's screens came alive. Images appeared, videos, documents, the hidden history of the Galaxy Council. The elders went pale. What is this? Orvith demanded. Evidence, Liuna replied. Collected from Korath archives, from council records, from 100 sources across known space. The images showed secret meetings. The council and the Korath, negotiating behind closed doors. Trade agreements, territory exchanges, and most damning of all, the permission, you knew, Leona said. You knew the Korath were going to attack us. You did not warn us. You let it happen. Because a weak humanity was useful to you. Because a humanity at war would not challenge your power. Because you thought we would break and become obedient.
The chamber erupted.
Species that had been silent began to shout. The elders called for order, but no one listened. This is lies. A Telkani elder screamed. Human propaganda. Then explain your own records. Leuna pointed at the screen. Your own words? Your own signatures? You sold us to the Korath like cattle. You traded our lives for your comfort. Orvith stood. For the first time he looked truly old, truly weak. We did what we thought was best for galactic stability. Sometimes sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices. Leuna stepped closer. That is what you call 2 million dead on New Busan. Sacrifice. That is what you call children burning in their homes. Stability. She shook her head slowly. No, we will not accept this. And neither will they. The chamber doors opened. Representatives entered. Species that had been silent for centuries. The Fenari, small and furred, freed from Korath slave camps. The Dosk, tall and scaled, released from Korath prisons. The Helith, ancient and frail survivors of a genocide the council had ignored. They walked to stand beside Leuna. These are the species you abandoned, she said. The ones who suffered while you maintained your precious stability. The ones who cried for help while you looked away. They have chosen to stand with humanity. And together, we will build a new future. A Fenari elder spoke, her voice small but clear. The council told us to accept our fate. They said resistance was useless. They said no one would help. She looked at the human ambassador. Then humanity came. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for alliance. They simply freed us because it was right. The Dosk leader stepped forward. His voice was deep and rough. For 200 years, my people served the Korath. We built their ships. We dug their mines. We died in their wars. The council knew. The council did nothing. Humanity ended our suffering in 3 weeks. One by one, the representatives spoke. Story after story of abandonment by the council. Story after story of liberation by humanity. When they were finished, Leuna turned back to the elders. You asked what humanity wants? Here's your answer. We want nothing from you. We do not need your approval. We do not need your alliance. We are building something new. A compact of species based on honor, on justice, on the simple idea that the strong should protect the weak, not prey upon them. She paused and let her words sink in. You may join us, if you can prove you have changed, but you will not lead. You will not dictate. You will follow rules written by those who have suffered under your rule. That is the only offer you will receive. Orveth sank back into his seat. His hands trembled. And if we refuse? Leuna smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Then you will be alone. Alone with your pride. Alone with your history. Alone with the knowledge that you could have been part of something good, but you chose not to. She turned and walked toward the door. The liberated species followed her. At the threshold, she stopped and looked back one last time. You called us young. You called us weak. You said we did not understand the galaxy. She straightened her shoulders. Now the galaxy will learn to understand us. The doors closed behind her. In the silent chamber, Elder Orvith put his head in his hands. Around him, the power structure of 3,000 years crumbled to dust. The old order was dead. Something new was being born. 5 years had passed since the day Ambassador Leuna walked out of peace talks. The galaxy was different now. Everything had changed. President Baek Jin-ho stood at the window of his office and looked out at the city of Seoul. Flying vehicles moved through the sky. Ships rose toward space in steady streams. Children played in parks where monuments to the fallen stood. Humanity had healed. Not forgotten. Never forgotten. But healed today was a special day. Today. The Terran Compact would formally welcome its 20th member species. The Compact was something new in the galaxy. Not an empire built on conquest. Not an alliance built on fear. Something different. Something built on a simple idea. The strong protect the weak. Justice matters more than convenience, and no species stands alone. The founding members were the species humanity had freed from the Koroth. The Fenari, small but clever. The Dosk, strong but gentle. The Helith, old and wise. They had chosen to bind their futures to humanity's not because they were forced, but because they believed. Others followed. Species that had suffered in silence under the old order. Species that had watched the Council's corruption and felt powerless to stop it. They came to humanity one by one, asking to join something better. Some were turned away. Not out of cruelty, but out of honesty. Membership in the Compact is not a reward, President Beak explained to each petitioner. It is a responsibility. You must accept our laws. You must protect the weak, even when it is difficult. You must never stand silent while innocents suffer. If you cannot do this, you cannot join. Some species heard these words and left. Others heard them and stayed. The Compact grew slowly, but it grew strong. Admiral Park Tae-ho had retired after the war. He lived now on a small farm outside Busan, growing vegetables and watching the stars. Sometimes young officers came to visit him. They wanted to hear stories of the war. They wanted to learn from the greatest military mind humanity had ever produced. He always disappointed them. There is no glory in war, he told them. There is only survival. We did not defeat the Koroth because we were brave or clever. We defeated them because we had no choice. Because they forced us to become something we never wanted to be. He would point to his fields, to the peaceful earth beneath his feet. This is what I fought for. This quiet, this peace, this simple life where no one is afraid. If you want to honor my service, then build a galaxy where war is never necessary. That is the only monument I need. Captain Kong Soo-min now commanded the Compact's exploration fleet. She was no longer hunting enemies in the shadows. Now she sought new friends in the unknown depths of space. Her ships traveled further than any human vessel had gone before, carrying messages of peace to species who had never heard of humanity. We are not conquerors, she told each new species they met. We are not here to take. We are here to offer. If you wish to be alone, we will leave you in peace. If you wish to be friends, we will stand with you. The choice is always yours. Some species were suspicious. They had heard of humanity only as warriors, as destroyers of empires. But Soo-min was patient. She understood that trust took time, and humanity had time now. The days of desperate survival were over. The Galaxy Council still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Half its member species had left to join the Compact or to stand alone. The elder races sat in their ancient chambers and watched their power fade. Elder. Orvith sent a personal message to President Beak on the anniversary of the peace talks. It contained only 2 words. We understand. Beak did not reply. There was nothing to say. Ambassador Li Yuna had returned to private life. She taught young diplomats at a university in Incheon. Her students learned not just the art of negotiation, but the philosophy behind it. Diplomacy is not about getting what you want, she told them. It is about finding truth. Sometimes the truth is that agreement is possible. Sometimes the truth is that it is not. A good diplomat knows the difference and acts accordingly. One student asked her about the peace talks. About the day she walked out, she was silent for a long moment. I have asked myself many times if I did the right thing, she said finally. Many people died in the war that followed. Many families were destroyed. Every one of those deaths weighs on me. She looked at her students with tired eyes. But I also ask myself, what would have happened if we had accepted? If we had taught the galaxy that murder could be forgiven for the sake of comfort, if we had told our children that justice was a luxury they could not afford. She shook her head. Some prices are too high to pay. Some surrenders destroy more than they save. On that day, I decided that humanity's soul was worth fighting for. I still believe I was right. But I understand those who disagree. On Liberation Day, the 5th anniversary of the Koroth surrender, ceremonies were held across the Compact. Humans and their allies gathered to remember the dead and celebrate the living. On Earth, President Beak gave a speech that was broadcast to every member world. 5 years ago, we faced a choice. We could accept injustice and live in shame. Or we could fight for something better and risk everything. We chose to fight. Not because we wanted war, not because we enjoyed destruction, but because some things are worth any price. He paused and looked at the crowd before him. Humans and Fenari and Dosk and Helith and a dozen other species, standing together as equals. Today we live in a galaxy where the strong protect the weak, where justice matters, where no species stands alone. This is what we fought for. This is what our dead bought with their lives. And this is what we must protect, not with weapons, but with wisdom, with compassion, with the endless patient work of building something better. He smiled, and for a moment the weight of leadership lifted from his shoulders. We're not perfect. We will make mistakes. We will face new challenges that we cannot imagine today, but we will face them together. That is the promise of the Compact. That is the legacy of humanity. Not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as builders of peace. The crowd cheered. The galaxy listened, and somewhere, in the quiet depths of space, the stars burned on, indifferent to the small lives that moved among them. But those small lives had changed everything. They had proven that even in a cold and ancient universe, courage and justice could still matter. Humanity had not asked for this role. They had not wanted to reshape the galaxy, but they had done it anyway. Because it was right. Because someone had to. Because in the end, that was who they were. The young species from the small, blue planet. The ones who refused to kneel. The ones who built something better.